Welcome back to another episode of the Innovate on Purpose podcast, hosted by Matt Muller,
best-selling author of The Mindful Innovator and Rethink Retail's top retail expert.
We help retail leaders find clarity so they can grow their businesses purposefully.
We will uncover mindful tips, innovative solutions, and purposeful leadership advice and strategies that you can apply immediately to your retail innovation. Are you ready to innovate on purpose?
Hey, before we jump into the episode today, I just wanted to say thank you for hitting the play button. You being here fires me up, and I cannot wait to share with you the insights that are going to make a difference in your business. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button and leave a review so I can reach as many retail leaders as possible. They too need to hear this. Okay, let's do it. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Innovate on Purpose podcast, brought to you by the Mindful Innovator. We have a special guest back for another round. She didn't have enough from round one. Johanna Derbolowsky, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me, Matt.
Of course.
Exciting.
It is exciting. We had a wonderful first conversation talking about transforming your business with quantum shifting and intuition. And I wanted to have you back to have another conversation to continue it, and just help business leaders find ways to innovate with their intuition, to build their business with their intuition. So I think we're gonna have a really cool conversation today about it. But I guess first, I just want to start off with, what is intuition?
Intuition is your inner knowing. So intuition is where you are connected to everything in the universe. And that's where your knowledge comes from, rather than outside facts.
So it's all knowing, it's connecting into the universe and tapping into that to get information. So it's sounds like it could be a whole lot more accurate than ChatGPT, right?
Well, technology always follows spirituality. So if you are in spirituality, you're like always one step ahead of science and technology. But they catch up eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's kind of interesting. I kind of think about it as like that analogy of where, like, right now, as business leaders, we're pretty comfortable with tapping something into a prompt of ChatGPT to get some answers. And I guess I never thought about it until this moment here, that we could actually kind of do the same thing with our intuition, that we could just tap in a prompt to ourselves and then get answers from the universe. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah, we could. And it's less time consuming and less expensive.
So there's not a monthly fee for this, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess, so that's what intuition is. What are some of the benefits of using intuition for our business?
Well, the benefits are that you know what to do. So it's like a game. We're talking about technology maybe being like a game. Intuition is like a game too. You tap into the information from the universe and then you play with it. Now, the universe may also be playing with you and have an idea of what's good for you and your business that may not, look at first like it's what you're thinking. So the lighter you keep things, the easier information travels. So if you try your intuition because you want to make more money right now, and this is all, you have all these things, all these weights on top of your intuition, it's probably gonna throw you some loops. You have to be really clear for your intuition too.
So you have to be really clear for your intuition, otherwise it could play some tricks on you. That sounds a little scary now as a business owner. Like I don't know if it almost sounds like ChatGPT. So how do you get really clear then and make sure that you're getting the right information and that you can trust your intuition?
I think the best way is to get really quiet. You need to be quiet inside. So we have our ego. Our ego wants to be busy. It wants to achieve something. It wants to conquer something. It wants to come out a winner. It wants to be strong. And so it throws a lot of new things at you, and you have to learn this and you have to achieve this. And intuition is the opposite. It's like you sit back, you get rid of the ego, you're very quiet where everything is okay. You have to use your intuition, you have to come from a point of view, okay. If you're in panic, you probably are not hearing your intuition. So intuition is a great tool, but what comes before it is that your ability to tune in. If I have a mindfulness practice like the things that you teach, then I can be pretty sure that I can sit down and my intuition comes through to not teach me to become quiet, but to actually show me what's the next step.
Okay. So it really does come down to almost training yourself before just jumping in, right? So like if I never meditated before, I don't have a mindfulness practice, and I go and say, hey, intuition, what should I target next for my business?
Well, if you just use your intuition and you have no mindfulness practice, but you use it more like a child or a teenager, like, wow, okay, I'm going to try this out. I'm going to do this. Wow, this is good. It'll work. But when you come from a mind that is full of worry and pressure, then you need to have some sort of way to put that aside for a while. You have to have some training to put that aside. So I can tell you right now, it's like really easy to be pain-free because I don't have any pain right now. And I can move around without pain. But when I'm in pain, it's really hard to let go of that in the moment. So I think intuition is the absolute best thing you can do for your business. But you have to work on yourself to get to a place where you can actually hear it.
I love the analogy there too, as far as like, the pain piece of it. Cause like I totally resonate with that, where it's like, I have a headache, and because I have a headache, oh my gosh, I wish this headache would go away. And it almost continues because I'm thinking about the pain. I'm thinking about the headache. So of course it's not going to go away because you're thinking about it. But
so pain, whether it is physical or in your business, so it's an attention hogger, and it hogs all the attention. So intuition is very subtle. If you have a huge attention hogger in your head, you're probably going to miss it.
Yeah. So what do you suggest to people that to get out of that? So like if I'm running a business, things are not going well, I'm like a month away from going bankrupt. It's hard to get out of my head. If I'm having huge issues with a client that's about to fire me, huge issues, how do I turn that off?
You find somebody that helps you with that. So in that case, you're going to go to somebody that can help you with the intuitive part. Actually, that's what I do. So even though, I'm pretty good at that intuition thing myself, but if I am in a situation where I'm completely squeezed or I can't see out of my own pile of junk, I will go to a coach or find somebody that can hold that clear space for me, even just for a moment, so that that can come through.
That's so important. To have that space held for you to be able to actually hear into the intuition.
Yeah, it's sort of like if you go to the doctor. Because the doctor has the clear view. You're not giving your power over to the doctor necessarily, but you get that clear advice. Okay, this is this, and then you can go back home and you can get rid of what's hogging your attention, and you can say like, okay, now I'm back.
Okay.
We're not here alone, so there's always help there, and help is important. It's important to accept help.
Yeah, that's something that's extremely important to make sure that you have the help and the support that you need to get through those business challenges. And a lot of times I know, like, especially the corporate side of the business, when I was innovating in the CPG world, um, it was almost impossible to ask for help because you kind of have that ego going. And if I ask for somebody to, hey, things aren't going really well too right now, I need some help. I mean, it didn't look good on you. It's bad politics. So definitely, I think slowing down for a second and thinking about who you can actually reach out to get help, like with you, Johanna, makes total sense.
I mean, we're raised with our egos like that. We are in a competition that we have to be better, show no weakness, men more so than women. So we have a little bit of an advantage over you guys because it wasn't that hardcore drilled into us. But right now it is drilled in equally. So in the kids, you gotta be good, you gotta succeed, you gotta always be on top and better than the next person. And the truth is, we're in this together, and we will only conquer our problems together.
Well said. Really well said. So we have to be quiet. We have to have that space to be able to use our intuition. Like, and then what else do we need to be able to tap into it?
We need to listen. We need to be able to really listen to the faint things. So if I make a decision am I doing this or this? And I have a ton of stuff to choose from. And I can't at that moment. For me, is I go for a walk. I go for a walk on the beach, and then I go think about something completely different and start having a conversation with myself. Now that people use headphones, it's easy. Nobody thinks you're totally nuts anymore. People used to look at you like, who's she talking to? But then all of a sudden comes that peace. And when you feel that peace that you feel in meditation, and then there's the answer. It's that Einstein thing. You cannot solve a problem within the consciousness that created it. So you have to, if you have a problem and, you're going to be bankrupt in, what was that, a week, you said?
Yeah.
You have to be able to step out of the problem that creates. If you can do it by yourself, because you do have a practice that allows you to completely step out of what's going on, that's fine. If you don't have that, find somebody that can do that for you, that can hold that space for you, so that you can do it. And I think it's a wonderful thing that it's so accepted now that, people do, it started with Freud, and people started going to therapy and opening up to, yes, I don't have to figure this all out on my own. And now we have coaches that can help you with holding that space for you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a coach is not going to solve your problem for you. A good one is not going to solve your problem for you. And it's not going to tell you, this is what will solve that problem, but they'll say, maybe look at this. Maybe this will save your problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't want to be disempowered.
So the answer will come in the silence, right? It comes when you're quiet. And I know, like, my mind wanders all over the place, like as many do. And sometimes it's hard to ask the question, right? To get to the point of, like, what I need to solve, because, like, my mind is just kind of cycling through and building stories, and one thing is just on top of another. So, like, I guess what's the best way to ask a question to get a answer back from the universe, from your intuition?
I don't know if I can say what's the best way, but I can say what's for me. It's like, hello, help.
So you
I'm
call out
sitting
for help.
here.
So you're setting the intention first to hey, I need help with this answer, or with this problem that I'm facing. Would you say that's, like, accurate? Like, that's how you start?
I definitely have my problem in front of me in my mind, and I realize that I have no answer for that at the moment. And then I, sometimes even out loud, I go, hello,
Anybody home?
Anybody out there? Or, that's when I'm still at a fairly good mood. And if it's totally devastating, I also go to get rid of that. I go to, okay, so what's the worst thing that can happen? What's the worst that's right in front of me? So, like, to take your example, I'm going to be bankrupt and I'm going to be miserable and homeless. And then I go like, wow, I've always been afraid of being homeless. So I think that's really not where I want to end up. And then I look at that fear and I go like, why am I so afraid of being homeless? Many people have to do that at one point or another in one lifetime or another. And so I look at that and I thought like, okay. And to me, I don't know, that was the point where I decided to take out my drawing pad and I drew a kind of designed shopping cart that how I would have my shopping cart organized if I become homeless. So it took it to a level where it becomes kind of a project and fun and not that doomsday thing. So I'm already prepared for that. So I don't have to really be afraid of that anymore. The point is you get rid of your fear because this is how it's going to happen. It's fine. And what happens, maybe you die. We're all going to die. So that's, to me, another go-to. If I'm going to die tomorrow, is this going to matter? No, it's not. Okay, so now I'm already free of that. Because in that pain level, I've solved it.
That is such an interesting thing to think about. Like, you basically face your fear. So what is your biggest fear when you're facing it? And I love what you said there too about like, about death. If you're scared that this is going to cause you to die, well, then I guess this isn't that big of a problem if you're dead. I don't know. It's just it's an interesting way to think about it, to where it immediately like lightens the load, in a way, right? It's just when we think about it in that sense, we can then get off the rails and start thinking about all the other things that are going to happen to the people that we leave behind. But that's all.
Who cares?
That's all other things.
That's not our problem anymore.
But yeah.
But the next problem comes up. So what if I don't die tomorrow?
Mm.
Then, so you're past that. So if I die tomorrow, this is not important. So it's not a life or death situation here.
Mm-hmm.
So you passed the life or death situation, with the shopping cart that I made kind of nice with the sleeping bag and everything. I had it all figured out. That becomes sort of like, okay, I've solved that problem too. It doesn't necessarily need to happen anymore now because I'm already dealt with it.
Yeah.
So now what if this doesn't happen? What if tomorrow I wake up and I have to still deal with all the problems I'm facing right now? Then you go like, okay, yeah, so the problems are here. They're not a life or death situation. They're not a homelessness or not homelessness situation at the moment. So what are they? And then I go like, well, I still have no clue how to solve it. And then I go inward, or if I am too crazed in my head to go inward, which of course can also happen, I go for a walk or some physical activity, because physical is also good for calming the mind or bringing the mind to a different level, because the mind has to now put energy into the body movement. So if you're not a seasoned meditator, meditation in a moment of crisis is a really tough undertaking, usually not that successful at first. But so you do something else. You do something like, walking, jogging, going for a bike ride, or going for a drive. See something different. So the key is really to shift the consciousness that the problem is attached to. You need to step outside of that consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise you will only okay, here's a Band-Aid. You will stay within that frame of having that problem.
I love it. So I'm taking notes for myself here, but I love like this where we're going with this. It's like I'm seeing where it's like you first kind of play with your fear a little bit, like, and kind of and lighten it. But then if it's hard for you to go inward immediately, the activity piece of it, I totally connect with that as well. Cause like I think about some of the places where I feel like my intuition is probably the sharpest is when I'm taking a walk or when I'm in the shower or in the ocean, swimming. Usually some type of water is involved. Is usually when, that's kind of happening, right? So it's like the activity itself almost turns on the intuition. So like that's kind of like the step two that I'm seeing. And then like after that, you mentioned go inward. I was wondering if you can, like for the novice, like someone that doesn't really meditate much, what the heck does go inward mean? I've heard that over and over again. What does go inward mean?
Well, I like to describe it like your mind is a huge paddock or place full of toddlers that you're trying to pay attention to or reel in, and they're running in all directions. And here your meditation teacher told you to keep your mind quiet. But it's pretty hard to do. And I mean, if you haven't been with a group of toddlers, then I suggest you take a look at them because you can't catch 10 at the same time. But you can maybe catch one of them. So you stay with one at a time. So immediately when you focus on one thought or one problem, you become calm. Because once you focus, obviously the other things disappear because that's what focus does. So when you start to focus on one thought or one problem at a time and you just stay with it, force yourself to stay with it. Don't jump to the next one, which is what we normally do. So you think it to the end, and then you at the end of that thought, and then you go like, okay, where's the next one? Where's the next screaming toddler? And you stay with that one until you have them nicely sitting on the bench. No, the first one might start running off again, but again, you do that over and over again because then at the end you will like be calm and you will be quiet. And in that calm quietness, you will start to hear, first your breath, because now they're not all running around in your head anymore. So you can focus on your breath. And then you will find that peace inside. And all of a sudden, there will be a thought out of nowhere that is relating to what you were thinking about before. That's a different thought. Intuition is really not a thought. It comes in as a knowing.
It comes in as a knowing. So it was almost like just like kind of like just like a couple of words maybe, where it's just like you just know exactly what you need to do.
It's
and it doesn't have to
complete.
actually be audible words, but like you just like
Yeah,
do that. Whatever it is.
And it's complete in itself. It doesn't come in fragmented. So intuition never comes in as a fragment. It's a complete thought.
Give me an example of a fragment.
You walk down a questionable street and there are people up ahead that so now your common sense goes like, oh my God, those people are maybe not so good for me to walk past. Should I turn around? Should I go on the other side of the street? What might happen if I do this? That is your mind thinking. That's your intelligence actually telling you, look, there's something that, you've probably encountered sometime before or heard about it, go away and all that. Your intuition will be different. You will walk in that street and all of a sudden it will tell you, turn around. End of thought. Before all that starts. Or you turn the corner and you want to go down the street, but there's this clear thought, do not do that. Take the next one.
So and there's no explanation. It's just
no.
Yeah.
And then your mind might come, no, but this is much shorter. I want to go this way. So that's how we talk ourselves out of it in no time.
Wow. So that's interesting. So if you think about it too, if you were using this for your business, like you may go deep inward and think about, how do I solve this particular problem that I'm facing? And your intuition answers you and you get that right comment or that right piece of advice. And now we have to fight ourselves to stay on that track because we're probably going to talk ourselves out.
Yeah. We usually talk ourselves out of it.
how do we? Yeah, I see that, but like how how do we not talk ourselves out of it? Like how do we stick with it? Like, because I know it's going to be natural for us to say, well, this way is much shorter. I'm just going to walk it, even though I was told to turn around. How do we fight our rationale?
Um, well, don't pay attention to it. It's just the toddlers running around. I have kind of a good story. It's like an older story for me. But I was in an intuition class, and that was way back when, and I was learning to live from my intuition. And I went out of the house. I had a meeting with a friend. I was meeting a friend at the museum, and I had a young baby, and I was ready to go. But there was something different about that day, I entered the door and I thought like, no, and I went back. And then I went into my car and I started driving, and I had all of a sudden that thought came in because I was also in school at the time, and it was close to finals, and I had all my final projects in the trunk. And I'm about a mile away from my house, and this thing comes in, not if, but when your car gets stolen, you do not want to have those final projects in your car. So, like, totally, I don't want to call myself dumb, but the thought kind of applies. I drive home, I take the stuff out of the car, and I did not pay attention to the whole thought. So I drive to the museum, we go in the museum, I come out of the museum, my car's gone.
Wow.
So I'm with like I don't know, 8-week-old baby. No car seat, no car. He's screaming. I feel like that's a diver to do. And I go like, Jesus, did I really just do this? Because, but then I went back over my mind. It never said, well, if something happens to your car, it would be bad. It was none of that thinking. It was just, when your car gets stolen, you do not want to have those things in the car. So yeah, I saved my final projects for school, and I passed my finals and everything. But I had to deal with all the other stuff when I easily could have called my friend and said, I don't think today's a good day. That's not me today. So that's a way of listening or not listening to your intuition.
Well, you listened, but you just got the wrong advice from your intuition.
Go home.
Go home.
But that was first, there were so many nudges not to go that day before. And then, that was just the final hammer. Like, is she going to hear this one now or not?
Yeah.
And then, all the stuff that I lost and the money that it cost to, recover the car and all that. I just turned around and I said, well, if I would have had a master class on intuition, I would have had to pay a lot of money for it. I got that, for a fairly decent amount.
That's so true. Yeah, it's like you mentioned it earlier in the episode about like your intuition could play those games with you, right, and take you kind of for that loop. And it seems like that's what your intuition did there, but it was for a very good reason. It was to teach you a lesson, and to get you to truly trust and listen to your intuition. Because if you were to listen to that whole sentence now, when your car gets stolen,
I would turn around.
You would have turned around, yeah. So it's a funny way for your intuition to kind of just teach you a lesson that you needed, so you would fully take advantage of your intuition and trust it moving forward. So it's really interesting.
You have these stories all the time. I mean, nothing really ever happens how we plan it. The universe plans the synchronicities and the meeting of people, and if you're not here, you're not meeting them, or, there is no such thing really as us having control over that. Even when you apply for a loan, there's no, you may have a good credit score, but if you don't meet the right person that actually gives you the loan, it's not going to happen. So when you come from an idea that you are not in charge, but your inner knowing is in charge. They know what's best for you. They know what's best for your business. They know everything. because all the molecules in the universe play together. They rearrange itself together to come together in a way that works for you. And how often have you heard that somebody worked really hard on a business and then they went through bankruptcy and they lost the business just to find one that they were really successful in? So when we take away that we must make things happen and we are in control, we allow more things to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's all being more in flow, because everything that happens to you is beneficial.
But we do have free will, right?
Yeah. You always have free will to run against the wall if you want to.
So if, like you're saying, like, then if there's a plan for us, we could choose how it plays out, but at the end of the day, it's going to play out.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that much in the plan. I think what your soul involvement is going to play out, and maybe playing out in different scenarios. But if you know that everything that happens, no matter what, happens for your benefit, your attitude is already better. If you're facing bankruptcy and you know this happens for my benefit, you look at it different than if you say, "Oh, this happens because now I'm doomed."
Mm-hmm.
So it's already shifting the consciousness of it. So if it happens for your benefit, then you go like, well, where's my benefit? Where I don't see it. Hello. This is pretty awful. What's going on? And then you wait for what evolves out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you make these rash decisions, then you are, you're going to be stuck in the next moment again.
So it's really going with that flow and allowing things to happen. Because if it doesn't play out this time, it's going to play out. I keep on using play out. I don't know if that's the right words, but like where if you are meant to learn a lesson that you got to go through financial hard times. And that's a lesson that you just need to have, whether it's you're making decisions now in this business or it happens in the next business, that lesson has to come.
Yeah. I mean, I have in my life, I had a lot of car lessons, maybe because I lived in LA, but I was thinking one day, I really, my car is getting old. I want a new car. A few hours later, somebody rear-ended me and totaled my car. Then I have no car. So but then I knew, okay, I wanted a new car, or I wanted a business that works better. I had to let go of this one.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes the universe, I think you experienced something like that with your job, right?
I did. Thanks to you, Johanna. Well, yeah, it was a great experience. I'll explain to the listeners too on that one, where it's I was stuck between a full-time job because I was addicted to a paycheck and wanted to go out and do my own thing and be a keynote speaker and consultant and coach. And I had a great conversation with Johanna, a session where we dealt with quantum shifting and set the intention of really wanting to be that business owner, wanting to not be addicted to the paycheck. And at the end of the session, I felt so much better. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I feel the energy going towards what I wanted to go towards. And then Johanna dropped the hammer on me and said, well, things might get worse before it gets better. And I was like, okay. And she's like, well, I was like, it's weird. You might just get fired or not have the opportunity to quit or something like that. And things might fall apart, but then they'll build back up to the way that you want to go. But things have to kind of come apart before they get back because you set the intention that you want this to happen. Probably about 2 days later, the company I was working for emailed me and said, hey, we need to talk to you with me, you, and HR. And sure enough, it was time for me to go. I had to leave the company because they saw that I was doing keynote speaking on the side, and they didn't want me doing that, so they had to make me choose. Well, do you want to do this or do you want to stay here? And it was absolutely no brainer for myself and the company to part ways at the time because it wasn't in my cards anymore. It wasn't meant to be because I set the intention for me to be a keynote speaker, a coach, and a consultant. So, and that kind of had to go down to that low of me having that conversation with HR, all because the intention was set. So it was a very neat experience.
But you have to, if you want to move, if you want to change the bottle of water and the bottle of steam, the water has to go.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing, about the quantum shifting too. You have to leave that set of structure and molecules in order to create something else out of it, or let it come together in a different way. So things falling apart or facing some really big problem is usually a sign that now, okay, something else is coming. Now, what happens naturally is we want to hold on. Oh, no, let me just keep this. This was so good. I really need that. And what am I going to do if that's going to be gone? And so that is how we do. We stay in bad relationships. We stay in bad employment situations because even though we want something else, we're not willing to actually allow it to come together.
Totally true. Yeah, that was absolutely my problem. It was like I was wanting to be this keynote speaker. I was, doing it part-time. And then I always was saying, okay, well, I'm going to grow the business a little bit more before I leave, a little bit more and a little bit more. And you're trying to make that progress. So you want to make that like full-time at the same time as holding on to your job. And you can't do that. You have to eventually let go so you can put all of your energy into the direction of moving forward. So totally, that makes a lot of sense now but I had the innate, just need to hold on to the past because it was comfortable.
Yeah. So the moment of letting go doesn't have to be a long one. It can happen in a split second. But that moment of letting the problem go has to happen if you want to solve it with anything. Now, during my time when I designed my shopping cart and was not doing so well financially, it was a really fun and interesting time because every day I deepened my faith. And I had a little visit to the emergency room that was so expensive, and I was, I had no health insurance. I just started looking at the bill, and I was sitting in my nice, comfortable meditation chair, and I go like, okay, well, I had no clue what to do with all this here. So I just sat down and let everything go and said, well, there's nothing I can come up with that can figure out how to pay this bill right now. And I started to meditate, which, I found gratefully, so I know how to do it, and there was nothing else to do anyway. And at that, I was taken out of my meditation by a phone call. And this person said, hey, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm just meditating away my bills. And she said, what kind of bills? And I said, well, I had to, I passed out and they took me to the emergency room and now they want all this money from me. And she said, oh, that's no problem at all. There's this foundation, just send them your bills. And I did, like, within 2 hours, had confirmation that they covered the bills.
Wow.
So that could not have happened if I've sat there and said, these bills, what am I going to do? I'm doomed. Because that's a very strong structure. And when you feel like, okay, well, already on my design shopping cart now, a few more bills, who cares?
So you would
Let me just find my peace in that.
Mm-hmm. So it seems like, but there was like two different parts to that meditation, right? Where it's like you're stressing out about the bills, like, oh my God, these bills. But then you had to let it go.
Yeah.
Right. So you had those two pieces of it. It's important to do both components of it, where it's like you're stressing out about it to kind of put the urgency out there into the universe and then letting it go, or.
I think
Would you recommend just letting it go?
I would recommend just letting it go, but I think expressing out is not natural to us.
Yeah.
We do that. We if things don't go the way we figured they would go, and then if you look at the little kids again, they have a problem, they pay attention to it for a while, and then they run around and do something else because their attention is not focused on the problem that much. They don't give it that much weight, and then before you know it, they're on to a better thing.
So if you were to give one piece of final advice to business owners today, to leaders today that are trying to innovate in their business, like, what is that piece of advice you would give them?
I would say definitely incorporate some sort of mindfulness in your day, some practice of that sort, and start to listen to your inner voice and practice listening to your inner voice. I mean, it takes a little bit of practice to hear it because intuition is quiet and subtle, and sometimes even when it's loud, you still don't hear it. But you practice that and you go from that. But the biggest thing I think to remember is that whatever happens is for your benefit. So there is no doomsday per se.
I like that. I think that's a perfect place to leave it off. And I would just like to add too, if you have a hard time finding that space and to be quiet, then find Johanna, and she can help you find the space.
Find somebody that you're comfortable with that will hold that space for you and take a look for you and tell you, people just maybe one more thing, people go up to psychic, they want to have an answer. But if the answer is not already within them, they're going to reject the answer and the psychic is stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Because which is a good thing, because everything comes from within. So maybe you hear it from the outside, but it is within you. And when those two come together, then you move forward with it.
Yeah, makes total sense. So business leaders, go inward, be quiet, and listen to your intuition to make those next moves. Don't force it, and just get into that inner knowing. And if you want to learn more about Johanna Derbolowsky, you can find information about her in the show notes, her website, her book, The Transformation Promise, which is an awesome book. I recommend that you read that one. I mentioned on the last show. So again, still a great book. So go read it. Thank you so much for tuning in. And Johanna, thank you so much for being a guest twice on this podcast. So thank you so much.
Well, it's always fun to talk with you.
Thank you as well. And I'm sure there'll be a third one coming up, I hope.
I'm looking forward to it.
If you're not sick of me yet.
No.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
We have made it to the end of another episode. Thank you for tuning in. A couple of things before you go. If you have found value in this episode, I am sure you'll find value in what we have coming up. So please subscribe so you will have access and know when we launch the next episode. Also, leave a review. The more reviews we have, the further our reach becomes, and I truly want this to be heard by as many leaders as possible. Don't hog this all for yourself. I would love to hear your insights on this topic, so meet me on social media at Matt Muller Innovation on LinkedIn and Instagram. And lastly, if you want to learn more about my story and what I can do for you and your company, go to themindfulinnovator.com. I would love to help you innovate on purpose. Until next time, just remember, bring a level of awareness to each conversation, each observation, each moment, and you can create great change in this world. Thank you.